Thank you for being with us on this Easter Monday. Our top story tonight, Pope Francis reminds the faithful that the resurrection of Christ is the most important and most beautiful day in history.
Aiuta l'amato popolo ucraino nel cammino verso la pace.
The Holy Father made the remarks after celebrating Mass on Easter Sunday at the Vatican. It was part of the traditional Urbi et Orbi talk. Pope Francis also says Easter is a time to rejoice because it is a reminder our hopes do not meet a wall of death, but instead, through the Lord, we find a bridge to real life. Joining us now from Rome is Colm Flynn, EWTN News Vatican Correspondent. Colm, great to see you. So tell us, what was it like yesterday at that Easter Sunday Mass and then at the Pope's Urbi et Orbi message?
Well, a very good evening, Tracy, from Rome. And yes, let me tell you, it was such a beautiful day yesterday. After a week of rain, hail and stormy weather, it was a glorious day as the sun shone down over the Eternal City, as Pope Francis was joined by an estimated 100,000 people for Easter Sunday Mass and then his Urbi et Orbi message. That's Latin for message to the city and to the world. The Swiss Guard were out in marching force to protect the Pope, surrounded by over 30,000 flowers donated by the Netherlands. And Tracy, I was lucky enough to have a ticket for the balcony overlooking the square, and it was so beautiful to see Pope Francis, after his health scare last week, travel through the crowd and greet the faithful and well-wishers from around the world with a smile, and he was full of energy. And during his Urbi et Orbi message, the Pope spoke about a number of issues, but really the overarching themes were hope and peace. The Pope called for an end to war and conflict in areas all over the world, naming regions like Palestine and Israel. He asked that they would declare a ceasefire and they would trust each other. He also prayed for two African countries that he visited this year, the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. He prayed for the victims and their families of those affected by that devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria. And once again, he called for an end to the war in Ukraine. And he said he hoped, quote, the light of Easter would shine upon the people of Russia. But Tracy, really what was beautiful was at the end of his Urbi et Orbi, he reminded the people there that the resurrection of Jesus on Easter Sunday, after his crucifixion on Good Friday, was not a fantasy or wishful thinking, but rather a reality, and one that he said should give hope to the entire world.
Beautiful words there from the Pope. And Colm, how did his health appear to be? I know many were worried that he really wouldn't be well enough to celebrate during Holy Week, after he came out of the hospital.
Well, yesterday he was brought up to the altar in his wheelchair, as he usually is now. But he did stand a number of times unaided. But clearly, the Holy Father is sometimes in a great deal of pain when trying to stand or get in and out of his chair. You can really see this on his face. He did as well decide not to participate in the Good Friday night traditional Way of the Cross. That was at Rome's Colosseum. Thousands of people were in attendance. It was a beautiful sight of a sea of flickering candles, but the Vatican released a statement that day saying that because of the particularly cold weather, the Pope would not be attending and instead would be watching and praying from his home in the Vatican. He did have an earlier evening prayer service at St. Peter's Basilica to mark Good Friday, and on Saturday evening he presided over the Easter Vigil Mass again in St. Peter's Basilica behind me.
Well, it's great to see that he is making a recovery for sure. And finally, Colm, I know that today he delivered a special Angelus address at the Vatican. Can you tell us what he said?
Sure, he prayed for a number of things, including the Good Friday Agreement, which was signed between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland 25 years ago today. The Pope recognised that it had largely ended violence in that terrible period known as the Troubles, but the Pope said that he hoped that peace could be consolidated in Northern Ireland to benefit all the people of Ireland. Pope Francis also encouraged Christians all around the world to proclaim the good news of Jesus' resurrection, and he said never to hold back because of fear of what others might think. Share the happy news, he said, with friends, because not only is it good news and the best news of your life, but it also is life, the Pope said. Tracy?
All right, Colm, thank you so much for that report. We appreciate it.